Good morning and welcome to my first podcast. We're going to start. Talking about 41 years ago of me starting to work in my dad's pawn shop, all the way through to today. And there's a ton that has gone on, a ton of amazing things that I've learned, some good times, some tough times. But it's been a road to where I can sit here and feel comfortable to talk about this behind a microphone, in front of a video camera, in front of Maninder, all about talking about everything that I've done. So it's going to be an exciting thing. It's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking, but we'll get through to it. So let's go back to my 12th birthday. My father was a very hard worker. My father was an amazing man. My father was a man that taught me everything there is to know about understanding that you have to work to be successful. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Nobody's going to just, it just doesn't happen. You have to work hard to get it. And that's the only way that you're going to be successful. So again, go back to 1984, January 1st, 1984, the day of my January 9th, 1984, the day of my 12th birthday. My father pulled me aside and brought me upstairs in his pawn shop. My father was in the pawn shop business for about 45 years and brought me upstairs. Now leading to it, 12 years, I was running around his pawn shop, playing there, running around. This was downtown Calgary in the early 80s, and it was a very small area. It was very tight-knit downtown group of people. That was effectively my backyard. Kids outside their houses, they play in the forest, they run around. That's where their backyards was every day. I went down to my dad's pawn shop after school, and my backyard was downtown Calgary, working in his pawn shop. So leading up to, kind of being born in 72 all the way up to 1984, the day of my 12th birthday, I'd been there and walking around and listening and hearing and seeing what he's been doing every day for those 12 years. It's kind of learning by osmosis, learning from just watching and learning, and not him specifically telling me, but when you watch and learn something is how you kind of go through life and learn a ton. And that's what happened. On my 12th birthday, brought me upstairs, says, son, now you're a man. Now it's time for you to learn to work. Handed me the keys to the store, closed up a couple safes, and literally gave me a couple parameters of what to take and what not to take, being in the pawn shop business, what to give a loan on, what not to give a loan on, and then walked out the door. Literally walked out the front door. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know until after the fact that he actually did. What he did was he went literally to a restaurant right across the street, sat in the window of what was called the Modern Cafe. Some of you that may watch this that are from those old days might remember, but it was called the Modern Cafe. And he sat in the window and he stared and looked across the street and watched who was coming in and out of the store. But the first gentleman that walked in the door, his name was Yahoo, downtown local wino. Anyways, I'd known of Yahoo for many years because he used to walk outside in downtown Calgary. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you'd hear the words Yahoo, and that was Yahoo. You could tell that he had a few in him, and he was feeling good. Came in the door and said he was looking for a loan, and I said, yeah, we can do that. He told me what he was looking to get a loan on, which was gold. I said, yeah, that was one thing my father allowed me to give a loan on. And he said, do you have a pair of pliers? And I said, sure. And I went to the back and I grabbed a pair of pliers. I handed it to him, and he said, you might want to turn around for this, kid. And again, in my mind, I'm remembering the words of advice that my father had given me all the time was, don't ever turn your back on a client, right? It's just don't ever turn your back on a client. Whatever happens, don't ever turn your back on a client. So I said, listen, Yahoo, I said, you're going to do what you got to do, but I'm not turning around. Anyways, he took the pliers and he stuck them in his mouth and he pulled out his bridge, his gold bridge, put it down on the desk. There was blood everywhere. There was blood all over the place. I immediately, by remembering all the years that watching my dad, I immediately turned around. It was just so instinctive. Turned around, I went to the safe, I pulled out a $10 bill, I handed it to Yahoo, and he went out the door to be on his merry way. Anyways, the whole point of that story is it's an interesting one, because the whole point of that story, what that story taught me, what my father came running back in the door, and he saw that there was blood all over the place, and he was so scared and worried for me. But we cleaned it all up and we went through it all, and he said, son, he said, I'm going to teach you something from that situation. He says, always remember that everybody is a somebody. And as long as you treat everybody like a somebody, you'll never lose. Everybody is somebody, and as long as you treat them accordingly, you'll never go wrong in business. Great start to a business career, great start to learning everything, just amazing. Anyways, going forward from the age of 12 on, again, my father being the center of downtown Calgary, and over the years we were down on the 8th Avenue Mall, and then we moved over to 17th Avenue, and then we moved over. Eventually, the last store I built was actually on McLeod Trail, which actually currently is still there at 4108 McLeod Trail. It's a big yellow, it's got the big yellow pawn shop sign on the top of the building. Actually, I built that store and put that big sign up there. And now effectively 30 odd years later, the building is still there, the pawn shop is still there, and the sign that I put up there is still there. What the pawn shop business taught me taught me everything. The pawn shop business taught me everything there was to know about business. Again, throughout the years, my father's store being the center of location for all of his friends. So again, years and years of his friends and his close business partners and business people that would always come into the store, and I'd be the young kid sitting in the corner listening to the 5 or 6 or 7 old business guys that would stop in throughout the day just to say hello to Izzy, and they would talk business, they would talk politics, they would talk persons, something about their families, they would talk just about everything. So it's kind of like, again, I go back to that discussion about just learning by osmosis, of being that fly on the wall that would sit and listen to some of the most amazing business people out there, getting together, talking about it for years and years and years. And so it taught me everything there was to know to be successful in business. I attribute that to my father wholeheartedly. So again, we, throughout the years, age of 8 till about 20, did that, working in the pawn shop. I kind of learned very early on that, being stuck in 4 walls in a pawn shop in a retail setting wasn't going to be my future. It wasn't going to be something that I was going to be able to do for the next 40, 50 years of my life. So at that point, I told my father I was going to make a change. Went to go see actually a very good friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Stephen Itzkovich, who turns out is my landlord in this building. And Stephen, went to Stephen and I said, because I had worked with Stephen on and off throughout the years in the back of his shop, cleaning cars. He was in the car business. Very successful business in the car business. And I was cleaning cars for him for many years off and on, just to make a few extra dollars here and there. And when I wanted to leave the pawn shop business, I thought maybe I'll go give it a shot to get into the car business. So he said, yep, Stephen said, no problem. You've got lots of business experience, love to give you a shot. So pulled me in and he hired me at Hyatt Saturn Saab and Isuzu. So I was very fortunate because Stephen gave me an opportunity to learn to sell new cars as well as to sell the used cars. So I was able to work both sides of that business. Now, going into the Saturn side of the business, which is the new GM product, Saturn had invested, many billions of dollars into market research of teaching they made a program to teach their salespeople how to sell their car. So they did tons of market research with people, with gathering of groups of people together, and they effectively found out from all these people, what do they like to see through a sales process? So they called it the Saturn's 9 steps of the sales process. So what they did was they assembled all these people, got a ton of information, and they built the 9 steps process of how to sell a Saturn. And it was actually quite amazing because I went to Kentucky, I think it was, where they put together these salespeople, got them there for 3-4 days, and they sat there intensely and taught you how to go through the 9-step sales process on how to sell a Saturn. And it turns out, subsequent to after doing that program and now being here, call it 30 years later, that 9-step sales process really honestly can be applied to any sales in business. So it's what they found is, so what do people like to see through a sales process? So it doesn't matter whether it's a Saturn car or whether it's a widget, whether it's a pair of glasses, whether it's a microphone. What do people like to see in a sales process that's going to end up being successful to sell whatever it is you're selling? Came back from Kentucky after learning how to sell their car. My career in the car business was a very successful career in the car business because, again, learning from my father that you sit and you listen to people and you learn from them. They've invested billions of dollars into trying to build a sales process after all the market research that they've done on how to be successful to sell their car. Why wouldn't I use it? Came back after doing it, and then call it 2.5 years straight, I was number 1 or number 2 in the car business, in the car dealership, in sales every single month. So between selling the new Saturns or selling the used cars, all I did was stick to their 9-step sales process. Not 1 to 5 to 7 to 9, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, etc., all the way through to 9, and then ask for the business. And it worked. Again, the billions of dollars that they spent to teach their sales staff how to sell that car worked for me. It was the ones that didn't try to stick to the process that ended up not being the successful ones. Again, all the way through to the car business, again, realizing about 2 and 3 years later, close to 3 years later, again, the car business, being stuck in 4 walls because you have to be there, 8 to 12 hours a day to make any money in the car business, and you've got to be there, waiting for people to come to you. Realized again that wasn't really my thing. So then I had partnered up with somebody in the general contracting business, again, learning construction from the ground up, being on the job sites, working with people, dealing with the trades, getting there at 4 a.m, making sure getting the job site ready for the trades to come on, and learning, all while my partner was in the background doing all the work in the office side. I was the on-site gentleman, working, making sure the materials were delivered, making sure that the trades would show up, when they show up, how they show up, signing in, signing out, effectively running an entire job site, sometimes of up to 120 unit condo buildings. Again, fast forward throughout that process, did that for about 3-4 years. Ended up having a falling out with my partner because we just didn't align in how we ran business. Happens in business. So he went on his way, I went on my way, got out of the construction business, all while still doing snow removal. because we had a little snow removal business, I took the snow sweeper from our dissolution of our partnership, and I kept on doing snow removal for sidewalks and things like that. Again, just to bring in some extra money. Started with my father. We ended up finding a business in the pawn shop, or sorry, not the pawn shop, in a kosher butcher shop. We found a business that was in business in Calgary for about 40 years. Sole owner, had it for 40 years in Calgary, was getting to that stage in his life that he wasn't able to do it anymore. So we thought, you know what, great little established business, something my father could do because he was out of the pawn shop business at that point. So we bought it together. We renamed it Izzy's Kosher Meats and Deli. We rebranded it. We cleaned up the store. We renovated it. We expanded it. We got to-go food, built to-go food. It was a fresh meat butcher shop with a grocery store. I worked with him, and we had just a great time together building this company. You know, we effectively at that point probably 5x the revenues. So we significantly increased over time to get it to where it was. Again, in the beginning, when I started in that business, I knew that being a butcher owner wasn't going to be something that I wanted to do, but I had just gotten out of a business relationship in the pawn shop, or in the construction business, and promised my father I would give him 2 years to do that. 1 year into that 2 years, my father had been a 55-year client of what was called Renfrew Insurance at the time. So we had always bought our insurance from the same brokerage, whether it be personal insurance, whether it be commercial insurance. We always bought the same, we utilized the same, and were devoted to the same broker for the entire 55 years. And so we had the producer from Renfrew Insurance come to our store to do the insurance on our new store. And at that time, a gentleman had recommended to me, he said, listen, I don't know what you're doing in the butcher shop. You know, this is not really for you. And I said, yeah, I promised my father I was going to give him 2 years. He said, well, why don't you come down and meet with what inevitably turned out to be one of my first mentors in that business, a gentleman by the name of Doug McIntosh, who was the president of Renfrew Insurance at the time. And, you know, they sat me down and talked to me and then asked me to do a placement test. Did the placement test, turned out that they thought I would be a great asset to the Renfrew Insurance team. Did the placement test. And anyways, so after that, they offered me a job. Unfortunately, this was only 1 year into the 2 years promise that I made to my father that I would work with him in the butcher shop. Renfrew Insurance totally understood. They appreciated everything that I had done. They appreciated that I made a promise to my father for the 2 years. They said, no problem, come back and see us in a year from now and you have a job. I appreciated that very much. I worked out the full 2-year term with my father, and then August 1st of 2001 was my first day starting at Renfrew Insurance. Now, Renfrew Insurance was an absolute excellent business. This was a brokerage that was a large, strong, tier 2 brokerage, been in business in Calgary for 50, 60 years, 55 plus years minimum, and was just an absolute powerhouse in Calgary. They were a strong, reputable, well-regarded insurance brokerage. Got into the business, you know, for the first 6 months, kind of learned some insurance, went off to what was called the St. Paul University, learning insurance. So they taught me everything there was to know about insurance. I understood business. I had been in business prior to that for many years. So I understood business, but I didn't understand insurance, and I didn't understand the business of insurance. So again, teaching me insurance, March of 2002 is when I connected up with, turned out to be my second and most important mentor outside of my father, was a gentleman by the name of Norman Cochran. Norman Cochran had saw that I was, you know, he took an interest in me, saw that I had a lot to offer, wanted to pull me aside and say he wanted to mentor me. He wanted to be my mentorship person to teach me everything there was to know about insurance and the business of insurance. So, in Norman style, grabbed me, pulled me aside, sat me down, said, Sam, sit down, shut up and listen. And I did. Again, going back to my Saturn days where I sat down and I learned the Saturn sales process. I took the same amount of regard with Norman, and I sat there and I listened to everything that there was for him to tell me and to teach me there was about the insurance business. And it was probably one of the most influential and smartest people I could have connected up with in the insurance business was Norman, because he taught me the world. Taught me how to deal with clients, taught me how to deal with staff, taught me how to deal with insurance companies, taught me how to deal with claims, taught me how to deal with the stresses that come with this industry. And anyways, best thing that could ever have happened to me. His line of business was construction, so it was fortunate for me because I was in the construction business, so I had a good understanding of the insurance business, of the construction business, about the ownership of owning a construction business, having the construction employees, et cetera, et cetera. So me morphing into doing some construction insurance was a nice natural fit. Then the other side of the things was commercial real estate and hospitality, which are the three other lines of business that are near and dear to what I do and something that I focus on quite significantly. Hospitality side of the business, I've met some amazing people that have started with one or two businesses and have grown them up to 20s and 30s, all the way up to multinational business by the name of Keg Restaurants, who's been a loyal and dedicated client of mine for 12 or 13 years now. And then, of course, some large real estate companies, some large real estate family ownership businesses, et cetera. So fast forward, finished, worked with Renfrew Insurance all the way through till about, and then we were bought by a large multinational business. Gallagher Insurance Brokers came in and bought out Renfrew Insurance in July of 2014. And that was an interesting segue. That was an interesting move, going from 100-person large tier 2 local brokerage to a probably a 40,000, 30,000 person multinational business brokerage. It was interesting. It was difficult. It was difficult because you go from being an entrepreneurial brokerage to a brokerage where you're just a large number. Again, Gallagher had a lot to offer, but they didn't have a lot to offer for me. I was an entrepreneur at heart. Had a very entrepreneurial spirit in me that was from the age of 12 on. And I worked in the Gallagher world for about 4 years, and then felt it wasn't for me, and felt it was time that I moved on and I satisfied that entrepreneurial spirit that I was looking for. So I had gone out and sourced out an amazing connection that I ended up connecting up with a gentleman by the name of David Beck, who's the Wilson Beck of Wilson Beck. And David and I sat in a very short time period and noticed that there was significant synergies between the way that he runs his business and the way that I feel about business. And we connected, made a decision to move forward. And hence I moved myself, my team, my book of business out of Gallagher and started up what was Wilson Beck Alberta in March of 2019. Fast forward, we were about 10 people in March of 2019, all the way through till today, being 42 people, and 5x the business since, and have just absolutely had an amazing time. We're a brokerage filled with strong, smart, entrepreneurial, spirited people that want to get somewhere. And we focus on mid to large family-run businesses that are dedicated, that are loyal, that understand the value of relationships. And we do a great job. We do a really great job. Our retentions are high. Our revenue consistency is high. We just consistently do a great job. And there are a lot of companies out there that find value in what we do. And we love the partnerships. We love the connections that we build with our clients. And there you are. I mean, now we're January of 2025. Been in the insurance industry for 24 years now. And I look at a few things in my life that I would say, how do I say this? That there are certain things in life that you figure out that you were meant to be. I am fortunate for two meant to be's in my life. Number one meant to be, which I have to say forward, is that I was meant to be with my wife, Cindy. Cindy was the first thing in my life that was actually meant to be for me. Second thing in my life that was meant to be was me finding the insurance business, or the insurance business finding me. It was a meant to be. I found exactly what I should be doing, what I love to be doing, and the business that is absolutely perfect for me, because in the insurance business, I get the opportunity to learn every day something new. I get the opportunity to work with the most loyal and amazing clients that teach me something every day. I get the opportunity to work with 41 other people in this company that teach me something new every day. And there's not a lot of businesses that do that for you. And the insurance business is the insurance brokerage business is the epitome of, you get out of it what you put into it. If you put into it as hard as you want to make it, as hard as you want to get there, you will get it back out. But it does take work to get in, but the sky's the limit. There's absolutely no end in sight as to what can be done in the insurance brokerage business. So I'm going to finish it off at that. Podcast number 1, more to come. I appreciate you listening to me ramble. I appreciate you hopefully enjoying or seeing something that might have connected with you in what we just discussed. And more to come. Thank you.